Yeah, man, your boy Frank Nina. We're here for another episode of Force to Win podcast. You know what I mean? Shout out to Leticia J. Today we got a very special guest. You see my shirt, man. I have to get right. If y'all can read that, that's who's sitting next to me right here, man. My guy Supreme. I mean, Supreme.
Peace.
Peace, my brother. What's shaking, man?
Everything. Just been away for 33 years for something that I did do. I murdered another young brother that grew up not too far from here as an 18-year-old. My co-defendant was 17 and the young brother was 19. And what I realized immediately afterwards that not only did I murder him, but I murdered his mother as well. And I began to think about that immediately, if not sooner. I wasn't checking for him yet, but I was always thinking about his mother because I come from the agency of a woman. I have my mother. So a couple of years into the bid, 2 years into the bid to be right and exact, my brother got murdered, but the lead suspect in my brother's murder was my other brother. And that,
Wait. Your brother got murdered.
All blood brother? You talking about blood?
Both parents all grew up together. You know, when you're in these streets trapping, the shit is just that, a fucking trap. So I grew up repeating the mantra of my big homies, my older brothers, my cousins, death before dishonor. And when you repeat something in your mind, I know for me, when I repeat something in my mind, it gets codified in my mind. And now certain situations happen, that trigger is ignited and that reaction takes place. It's a reaction, it's not a response. When you react to shit, that's from an animalistic nature. When you respond from something, you're responding with intelligence. So as I repeated what they said in front of me, my young brothers repeated what I said in front of them. And that shit finally came home. I hit the family straight on. The lead suspect in my brother's murder is my other brother.
Oh, that's crazy.
You know.
What was the motive?
Getting money. My older brothers went OT. I'm from Corona, Queens, New York. I was born in Brooklyn, St. John's Hospital, lived in Tompkins projects. I was about 5. Then we moved to Corona, Queens. I grew up in the height of the crack cocaine epidemic. So everything that was going on influenced who I became. Though I try to resist hitting the streets for as long as possible, I realized that one of my heroes, my older brother, the God Can Do, he was always gone. And when I realized that he was always gone because he was locked up, I was like, yo, I don't never ever want to be like him. I don't never want to hit the streets. I don't never ever want to trap. Then when I turned 13, indirect peer pressure, I'm like, you know what? My mans, they getting it. I need to get it. I left my house. I got my first apartment at 13 and a half years old in New York. I'm the lieutenant for my cousins on a drug block that's making 15, 20 stacks a day, easy, at 13 and a half. The youngest worker I have working for me, I was his lieutenant. The youngest worker I had for me was 24 years old. So I couldn't be a kid in the street around all of that. Couldn't be a kid in the street around all of that. So everything that comes with that, this unspoken shit that we don't tell our babies about these streets. We don't tell our babies in these rap songs. We don't let them know that this is what's gonna come with this. A brother gonna kill a brother. Brother's gonna murder their mother by a broken heart. Children are gonna be abandoned. So when I got locked up, it was in Nashville Street. That first day in Unit 4-1, I was like, yo, I owe this man's mother an apology. But I still wasn't checking for him at the time.
So when did you come out here to Mass, Boston, after him?
I did a bit upstate New York. Came home February 1990.
All right, so hold on, let's bring it back. So you're 13.
Right.
You're in Queens.
Trinidad.
Then you did a bit from, you got caught up in something obviously over there.
Right. So I was trapping since I was 13. At 16, I caught a bid, went on Rikers Island, went up north, came home a year later, got right back to it. You know, they say a New York minute. Shit happens so fast. I got work on this block, I got work uptown, I got work in Flushing, Queens. And as soon as something went left, I was ready to go left. So we got TNT ran down on us. Back then, TNT in the mid-80s, early 90s, TNT was running down on everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so when they ran down on us, 3 of us in the car, there was a gun in the car. We got locked up. We bailed out. They was like, yo, we got to get you out. I had an option of going to Asbury Park, New Jersey, or Boston, Massachusetts. And my team had been in Boston since about 85. So I haven't seen a lot of the homies that I grew up with, so I said, I'm going to go to Boston. That's what got me into Boston.
So you came out here when you was like around 16 and a half, 17?
I was 17.
17.
I came out here.
Oh, okay, 17. Then a year later, you caught that situation. Now that situation, you came out straight off the rip. You started the podcast and said, you know, what you did.
True
So, you know, we don't want to pass no judgment. That could have been self-defense. That could have been something on the spur of the moment. Now you just, you know, you probably reacted and just, you know what I'm saying? Like,
No, we're going to keep it a whole dollar. This is a little stupid nigga following everything that was laid out, the trap, following everything that was laid out in front of me. I own that. And as a result, my younger cousin followed me. Then I'm doing a life bid. I got my little cousin doing a life bid. Because anything I was going to do, he was going to do it. So my whole brand is about repairing harm. And one of the things that I realized doing 33 years and fucking with our young people is that they respect the truth. And a lot of them don't want to do the shit that they caught up in doing. They just haven't found the avenues to get out of them. Because they don't see no real ones that was in it doing things differently.
all right.
So as I started making that pathway to do things differently, I started investing in programs. I said, yo, Dan, you ain't nobody's killer. You ain't nobody's drug dealer. You actually can think a little bit. As a thought leader, you can organize. As an organizer, you can influence people. So I leveraged my influence and my relationships to build programs throughout the Massachusetts Department of Correction. For 29 years, the first program we built was in a gang block, locked up 23 hours a day.
Wait, so I want to take it back real quick. So you kept saying that you didn't think about the person that was murdered. You thought about his mother. What were you thinking about his mother, and did his mother ever forgive you?
No, she hasn't forgiven me. Every time I go to parole, his family also has the opportunity, and I don't want to disrespect him or his family, so I won't say their names. They also have the opportunity to go to parole. And each time that they go to parole, I see her pain a little bit more. I see her pain a little bit more. So no, she hasn't forgiven me. And if I never get that forgiveness, I know that my life got to be a dedication to not only his life, but everybody else we lost. My young brother Devon, my little man Glace. So many brothers that we lost, and sisters that we lost to this shit that they call a trap.
It really is a trap. You get fall in that rabbit hole, and you get trapped. So, the case that you caught when you was 18, when you came to Boston, and you got the situation with the movie In Too Deep. Is that the situation that the movie comes from, or?
So let's put everything in context.
Yeah.
When they hit our team, they hit 52 people. Out of 52, only 12 of us was really the team. I was the second youngest on the team. My co-defendant was the youngest on the team. Out of us 12, the movie's loosely based around the police's notes. Because he was found hung in Vermont before a script was even written. So all they had was his notes. They kept coming to some of my big homies, some of my co-defendants, asking us to consult on the movie. It was like, nah, because brothers had open cases.
Yep.
Brothers are still fighting their cases. Even to this day, they're still trying to do documentaries. You know, it ain't their story to tell, it's ours. And we not going to tell a story. I know I'm not going to tell a story in a way that glorifies all that shit. So the context of the movie, and the movie's loosely based around our team and what happened in Boston from 85 to November or December of 1990 when the feds ran down on us.
So at what point in your bid do you decide I want to do something right. I want to be an advocate. I want to do right.
That would, just say there's 5 stages to change, right? Pre-contemplation, that's the beginning stages of thinking. Contemplation, thinking a little deeper about it. So I was at that pre-contemplation stage. The first 5 years of me back up, the first 5 years of my bid, I spent locked up 23 hours a day in the box. My co-defendant and I, we were falsely accused of murder another inmate in Walpole. Innocent as 2 innocent people could be. They had to throw the case out. But I was in the box for 5 years. And while I was in the box, what I got to do was just reflect. And like, yo, how the fuck did I get here? Though we was poor, I grew up with my mother and my father. They gave us everything from a perspective of morals, work ethic. So I began to challenge myself like, yo, how did you get here? So with that question of how did I get here, that I began to say, all right, how do I get out of here? And getting out of here was getting out of the mindset of being a gangster. And it took some time, many falls, to get into that place where I was no longer acting like a gangster.
So there was really, you had both your parents. So there was really no need for you to be on the streets.
There was no need for me to be on the streets. And I think it was, when you're young, like in New York, we had hooky parties. So I had a curfew growing up. I was a little punk. I'll break the curfew by 2 minutes. Get a little beaten. All right, that ain't nothing. I said, all right, I'm gonna break it by 2 hours now. That ain't nothing. One day I just broke night. Came home, I slept in the hallway. I said, man, they'll beat me in the morning. My pops kicked me and woke me up. He was like, yo, listen, I know one thing about you is that you're an independent spirit and you're gonna do what you wanna do. I just can't have you doing it under my roof. My stupid mind translated that he gave me license to go. And that's when I started trapping, and that was the worst decision of my life.
So from there, you took it to the streets. So you got me like emotional right now, like I'm about to be in tears. So you just decided, you know what, okay, you took it as a word, I'm going to go on the streets and I'm just going to do whatever it takes. And you didn't really need to be on the streets to survive because you had all the survival mechanisms. You just wanted to be...
I wanted to be independent. I wanted to be out there in the world. I wanted to be my own person. And even before I started selling crack, back then, about the drug gang back then, it was run by the Colombian cartel. I live in Corona, Queens. Corona, Queens is right next to Jackson Heights, Queens. Everything ran through Jackson Heights. I used to live with the Colombians, and that's where I first started getting money as a youngin'. So I grew up in a structure, and just back up, not only was it 2 parents, but I have 7 brothers, including myself, and 3 sisters. And we all lived in a 4-bedroom apartment in Corona, Queens, 9820 Northern Boulevard. Right on the strip. Right on the strip. So a lot of it, I say a lot of indirect peer pressure, because if I knew now what I didn't know then, I could have been graduate. I'm in college now. I could be doing something totally different than what I did.
But the streets is a motherfucker. The streets is an influence, you know what I'm saying? Like, see the glitz and glamour, you see everybody riding clean, and you know what I'm saying? Like, you want it fast, you want it now, you feel what I'm saying? And like you said, you talked to your father, and your father told you came doing this under the roof like this, and he was like, what? I can't, all right, well, if it ain't under this roof, I'm out of here, you know what I'm saying? It is what it is, man, you know what I mean? So now we're going to get, now you inside, you know what I'm saying? So you have 15 to life. After the 15, you get the parole.
After 15, there's a possibility of parole.
A possibility of parole. So, in your opinion, you think the parole system is broken out here in Mass?
100%. Now, I accept reality. The first time I went, 15 years, I didn't think I was going to get, I thought I was going to get a 5-year setback. They can give you a setback from as little as 6 months to as many as 5 years. They gave me a 4-year setback. I was like, okay. But the parole chairperson she had made a comment. She's like, how did you do all these things? And I hadn't realized that I was doing a lot of progressive things. I got my GED. I was enrolled in culinary art. I was doing a computer literacy. I was doing a lot of things, getting a lot of certificates. I was just doing things, you know. So after 4 years, I went back to the parole board in 2009. Now, mind you, I've seen 5 different parole boards with 5 different chairpersons. So that means 5 different people with 5 different mental makeups were looking at my case and deciding on it. So at 2009 parole hearing, they gave me a 2-year setback, but 2 members voted for me to go home. They said, this man's rehabilitated. He came in at 18 years old. He has an extensive record of programming in the institution. Let him go. They didn't. I had to go back after that in 2011. Now, enter Suffolk County prosecutors, particular Josh Wall. Every time I went in front of him, now there was a re-adjudication of the case. It was like, oh, yo, yeah, you were one of them New York boys. We chased y'all for a long time. Do you think you got enough time? And that's not the purpose of parole. It's not to re-adjudicate a case. It's to determine if someone is rehabilitated, if someone has lived beyond the means of incapacitation. And my record showed and proved that not only was I rehabilitated, but I lived beyond the means of being incapacitated. So they gave me a 5-year setback.
Damn.
Do you think that because you came from New York and you came out here, whatever the case may be, do you think that was the reason why they kept messing with you as well, pushing it back?
I think
to set an example?
I think in part it was, but I also noticed the racist nature of the parole board. And 2021 then Governor Deval Patrick had ordered a commission to study systemic racism on the Massachusetts Parole Board. And within 2 weeks they came back with their first report, stated that the Massachusetts Parole Board was inherently racist. So going back to the series of parole hearings and parole setbacks, 4 years, 2 years with 2 votes to go, to 5 years and 5 more years with no disciplinary problems in between this period of time. None. To the point that I created the program, the Restorative Justice, Building Community through Restorative Justice Public Safety Initiative, that the parole board is now telling everybody to go through to get out. I never thought that I had to go to parole with a lawyer because I was going to accept responsibility. That was one of my biggest mistakes, because when they think you're alone, they treat you like you're alone. The last time I went in with an attorney. And it was the first time that they actually looked at my record. They actually looked at who I was. In fact, one of the parole board members said, I've been listening to your case for 3 times, my 3rd time being on your case, and I'm sorry to say I made a mistake. And apologized twice.
So obviously, you know, when you went to parole the first time, if you had a lawyer, it turned out different for you, you think?
I think it could have turned out different. I think definitely the second time. And to make matters worse, that the parole board never ever stipulated what they wanted me to do to receive a parole, because I did everything. Every program there was to do, I did it. I've been creating programs in the Massachusetts Department of Corrections since 1998, beginning with This Is Your Cycle of Anger. And it was for us, by us, because we understood that the program inside of the Department of Correction is not culturally competent. They do not know how to develop programs for us.
Yeah, that's my next question. How are you incarcerated? How do you go about starting a program? Like what? So you got a notebook, you write on paper what you want to do, or like how does it? And then do you bring it to like what, the warden or something, or like how does it work?
So the first thing for me, my process is I listen to the people. I'm a servant leader. I listen to the people, and my work is needs based. What are the needs of the people? In particular, folks younger than myself, right? Once I decide what that is to be, yes, they got what they call a 103-473 self-improvement application. You fill out an application, tell them the mission, the purpose, the objectives of the goal, the theory that supports the program, pass that to a director of treatment. And most directors of treatment have little training in programming. There's someone who's just been elevated through the ranks of the Department of Correction. They could have been a correctional officer, or they could have been a caseworker. They have no formal training on how to determine what program is competent, what program is culturally competent. So for years, they would gun our shit down because it was coming from us. I'm a 5%er, so as such, I knew off the rip that the discriminatory treatment was always at play. Was always at play. It wouldn't be until 2012 when a director of treatment who actually understood what program it was came from D.C., seeing one of my proposals, build a community through restorative justice, the public safety initiative for the residents at MCI Norfolk. She said, we're doing this. Had it not been for someone who knew what the hell they was doing, that would have never saw the light of day. In that program, we went on to sit with Governor Deval Patrick, interface with law enforcement, academic leaders from every institution you can think of in the Commonwealth. But it still wasn't good enough for them because what they said is like, we got to take this from them. They can't have that. We have to take this from them. So after 10 years of building a community at MCI Norfolk, which is the state's largest prison, and arguably the most peaceful prison in the country, one of the most peaceful prisons in the country, they just removed me out of there with no due process, no classification, because they wanted to take the program. They knew as long as I was there that that wasn't going to happen.
Where'd they move you to?
We went to Shirley Medium. Now, Shirley Medium is the jungle. I'm not who I am, don't have the relationship that I have. You potentially jeopardize every single thing that I'm doing to get home, because now you threw me in the jungle. You threw me in the jungle. Again, all that allowed us to do was level up and start the program there.
So you
keep expanding it
So
out.
basically forced to win over there.
True indeed. True indeed. So there is no rehabilitative process in the Massachusetts Department of Correction that is competent. For one, they function on analog. It's archaic. No one has looked at what type of programs really work. And then when we created the program that works, they came in and took it. They came in and took the program and have given people millions of dollars to facilitate a program that they don't know how to facilitate.
That they didn't create or nothing.
They didn't create, and they asked our team, will we train them?
Instead of you guys.
Instead of them coming to us
directly
and
to
allow us
the people who actually created it.
To actually create it. And when you do that, what you do is you gut the spirit of the program, and it's no longer effective. It's no longer effective. And if we don't have effective programming, then we're not going to have safe streets out here.
So how many years in total has this program been running?
So the history of the program is so important to understand, because it started December 24th, 2010 as a result of a gang riot inside of the prisons with some of the youngest brothers that was inside of the prison. And as an older brother, then I felt personally responsible, like, we're not doing enough to make sure that this shit don't happen. So the program's been running 13 years. By 2012, we understood the importance of incorporating the program. So we incorporated the program under the name of the Transformational Prison Project. You can Google it. Today I'm happy to say that 3 formerly incarcerated brothers are running the program. They work with the DYS, they work with the sheriff, they work with the Celtics, they work with corporate America. They do corporate training, and the mission is just getting started. Because if we had these systems in place, these programs in place when we were babies, perhaps we could have prevented the roads that we traveled down and the people we became. So in concert with that, I also started a consulting company, Responsible Party Consultant. And consulting group, Responsible Party is anyone that sees themselves responsible for any harm at any time. It don't have to be a crime. It could be telling your daughter that you was going to pick her up and didn't do it. It could be taking someone's parking slot, taking a handicap parking slot. You know that was a measure of harm. And it's standing up 10 toes down and being strong enough to say, you know what, I'm responsible for that harm. I want to work to repair that harm. So the whole mission is, how do we, as a community, as a state, as a country, and as a globe, begin to repair these harms when the systems that are supposed to be repairing them are broken? They're not checking for us or not caring. Because we can't keep playing politics with a broken political system either.
So if one wanted to reach out to you or the program to get help, how can they do so?
So they can go to Responsible Party Global on Instagram or responsibleparty3.com, which is my website, and sign up on the email to become a responsible party. And now the whole mission in doing so is to build a network of people from every ilk, from podcasters to professors, from professors to entrepreneurs, from entrepreneurs to corporate leaders, from corporate leaders to psychologists, from psychologists to mental health workers. So now when someone does need to reach in for help, three of us can't tackle all the problems in Springfield, Massachusetts. Three of us can't tackle all the problems in Roxbury, Dorchester, and Mattapan in the city of Boston. But if we develop a team and everybody understands what it means to be a responsible party and is willing to stand up and hold themselves accountable in a realistic way, together everyone achieves more and we can get more done, because now we have a network to draw from.
That's good. So now you're about to enter back into society. What new plans you have going forward? What's the goal? What are we trying to do? Because there's so much to do. Like, where do you start? You know what I'm saying? Like,
my teacher, a lot of father, when his last lesson that he gave his 5%ers was carry on. So that first 13 years was all about building infrastructure and bandwidth through the nonprofit. This next 25 years is about community healing and generational wealth building through the for-profits. And as we do our numbers, now we can become the micro granters, the micro philanthropists for each other, as opposed to us constantly getting at each other over small paper. 5 stacks here, they got some grant money for our community-based nonprofits, but it's 5 stacks over here, 10 stacks over here, maybe even 100 stacks. It ain't nothing. If we can begin to develop revenue streams and pull our resources, we can become, again, our own micro funders. Same way I know we talked about Black Wall Street. I love the history of Black Wall Street. In fact, every February while I was incarcerated since 1999, once I learned that history, I've always shared that history during Black History Month. And it's a bottom-up approach. It's not a top-down approach. So it got to be for the people, by the people, through the people. So when people say, Preen, you a leader, I'm a servant. I deal with servant leadership. I'm strong enough to stand by myself and go against the grain of whatever is in front of me and prevail, because that's all I did from 33 years, 29 years. Once I decided, you know what, I can't do the shit that I did to get in here. I got to work to repair that harm that I've done. And I realized that I hurt that man's mother, I hurt my mother, I hurt my community. And one of the worst things that happened to me while I was locked up, around 2004 or 5 at Old Colony, a young brother just came to the camp and he kept looking at me. You know, I had already matured out of that stare down shit. So he finally said, yo, H, you don't remember me. And he immediately got my attention because only people from OP know me as H. And he said, the last time I saw you, I showed you my report card, and you gave me about $400, and you told me you don't ever do what you see me doing. He said, nigga, when you left, all I said, I wanted to be just like you, nigga. And that shit was like dying a cut of 1,000 deaths. Just how we show up in the world can impact a whole generation of people.
It can. So what would your advice be to the younger generation now, growing up? These kids that are on the streets. What would you say to them now?
I'll tell them that real strength is vulnerability. I really learned how to be a man when I learned how to cry. When I gave myself license to cry of all the foul shit that I did, all the people that I hurt, and acknowledge to myself, said, yo, you're hurting. When our young people know that vulnerability is really our strength, my vulnerability allows me to do the work that I've been doing for the last 29 years because I give a fuck. I care. If I didn't care, I wouldn't be doing the work. But it's not just merely telling them that advice, it's sitting with them to listen to their stories. Because most of our babies, they've never had anyone just listen to them without a judgment. They want to be acknowledged, they need to be acknowledged. That's unprocessed trauma, that's diverse childhood experiences that they've endured, that they've been carrying around all their life until the point that they go take another life. Then they got to sit down and someone got to go in the grave. So my message is, let's do this real man shit. Let's start healing. Let's start acknowledging where we hurt at. Let's start acknowledging our whys. Why are we popping off on each other like this? Brothers is getting money at record speeds. Why our gun game is still the biggest glorification tool in the industry. We played the gun game because we was protecting the money. I don't really understand what's going on from a perspective of violence other than our young men need to heal. All of that shooting, that's just pain coming out of them. Somebody made them hurt, so they're going to make somebody else hurt.
Vengeful.
Hurtful.
Hurtful.
Hurt people. And heal people.
Not only are you hurting yourself, not only are you hurting the person that you hurt, but at the end of the day, you're hurting your family, you're hurting your mother.
There's a whole ecosystem of
So So do you believe in Willie Lynch? That whole theory?
That's something that I not only all right, we go through the arguments, was he a real man? Get by that. What was written in those papers is an actual fact. You from Springfield, I'm from New York, she's from Boston. Yo, they from the other side, we don't fuck with them. That's what Willie Lynch said. Separate them based on their differences. So that's an actual fact.
I think
that's an actual fact.
It is, and that's why I asked you earlier, do you feel like you being from New York kind of had an impact on the parole board? Because I'm from Brooklyn myself, and I feel like being from a different place, they like kind of like you're like you're the outsider, you're outcasted. So you're definitely right with that. Listen, we can sit here all night and talk. You have a lot to say, and I definitely want to come back and sit with you again to talk.
No, definitely. We definitely got to get a part 2 going, you know what I'm saying?
Because you have a lot to say, and you have a lot to teach the youth. Also, older gentlemen as well. I appreciate you for sitting with us tonight. I appreciate you for taking the time. We definitely forced the win in all aspects tonight.
This is definitely a dope episode, man. Something different. Shout out to Miss Sheik for connecting the whole situation up. You know what I'm saying? She's doing a lot of work with the prisons as well.
True indeed.
You know what I'm saying? From being outside and, helping a lot of dudes get their voice heard. So salute to her.
And our joint venture.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So before we wrap this up real quick, my last question to you is mental health. Because you've been locked up for a long time. What does mental health mean to you, and how do you cope with your mental health on a daily basis?
It's a beautiful question. I practice self-care. One of the things that I've always done since I was young was learn how to be by myself. And when you're by yourself, you can listen to your thoughts without the agency of all the noise the world is compounding in your head. They say that when trauma strikes, the way that you can prevent a traumatic event from becoming traumatized is exercise, music, reading, going to school. I practice all those things in my daily life. The work that we do in our talking circles, in our healing circles, is our form, a new form of mental health. So I remember in Concord Farm right before I came home, sitting with a group of brothers, and it was the first time, and did hundreds of circles that the brothers came out so adamantly and talked about mental health and why they came back to prison, because of their mental health. And the more and more we did those healing circles, the less they went to talk to their mental health counselors, because we were talking to each other now. And I will say that I'm proud to say that I have a black woman therapist who's also a formerly incarcerated sister who came home, got got 2 master's degrees in the field. So I do talk to people as well.
So we're going to talk to somebody, huh? All right, man.
Wow.
Well, we're going to end it right now, man. It's another episode of Force to Win podcast. You know what I mean? It's your boy Franino signing out. Shout out to Leticia J, a guy supreme, once again. You feel me? And it will be a part 2. You know what I mean? So just stay tuned, man. We out here forcing to win. 100.
Peace.